What's going on, everyone? So Shams reported earlier today the Lakers are open to moving draft picks in exchange for immediate help. My sources in the Lakers front office tell me they're open to moving the 3 first-round picks in a potential trade, but they want a player or players that they feel can get into this iteration of this team now. He also went on to add over the next 3, 4, 5 years as well. So they don't just want a guy that will help right now, the next year or two, and then that's it. Like a Jimmy Butler, for example. It's like, Jimmy Butler really have another 3, 4, 5 years in him? Probably not. Probably just like a year or two. But at least the Lakers are open and willing. Obviously, something, just because they say that they are, something still has to get done. But this is where the issue lies, right? Outside of Cam Johnson, who else is really worth giving up a first that is going to be that immediate help, right? This is something that I've talked about heavily. Lakers, there's not that just one guy out there that makes the Lakers a champion, right? I've talked about, Zach LaVine as the singular trade that raises the ceiling as high for the Lakers, but I've even said, you still need other pieces, right? A Dorian Finney-Smith, a Day'Ron Sharpe, right? I've maintained you need 3, 4 guys, really. You need that point guard, that small forward, combo forward that can hit threes and, a Cam Johnson type, and then a backup center, or just go heavy into the perimeter help and get another, guy or two, right? If you get Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and a Day'Ron Sharpe, right? Okay, well then now you just bring in a Markelle Fultz or a Dennis Smith Jr. or something like that. Outside of that, I just don't know how the Lakers are going to get to a contending status. I mean, it's very possible that it might not be able to be done this season. That doesn't mean that you don't make the trade, right? If you can find a deal, if you can find a move that gets you, a piece or two now, and then in the offseason when LeBron could take a discount or something, and you can you have more wiggle room, right? Teams now have guys on the market again because they underwhelmed the previous season or whatever, right? Now you might be able to get that final piece or two that really takes you over the top. But also you got to keep in mind LeBron James, how much longer is he going to be able to stay at the level that he's playing? Anthony Davis, for the most part, has been healthier over the last few years. Can that be maintained? Right? And it's just you scour the league and it's just, who else is there? Right? Cam Johnson is really the only guy that you could justify giving up a first or two for. But even then, Lakers need more than just Cam Johnson. And also, is Cam Johnson, even if the Lakers were willing to pony up the first for Cam Johnson, I don't think that the Lakers have a realistic shot of getting him, assuming that the reports are true, that the Warriors and the Thunder, more than anybody, want Cam Johnson. Because as soon as you hear the Thunder's name in any type of conversations, that's pretty much the end of it, right? If they really want that guy, they could give up 5 firsts for Cam Johnson and still have the most assets in the league, right? They are stacked. Walker Kessler's another guy that kind of comes to mind that I'd be willing to give up a first or so for, but the Jazz, it's kind of they're flip-floppy with him actually being on the market. And then 2, they clearly want a insane return for him. There have been reports that they've turned down multiple firsts. But beyond that, it's Bruce Brown, you're not giving up a first for. Dorian Finney-Smith, you're not giving up first for. Jeremy Grant, supposedly you can have him for 1 first, but that contract, it's just if you could get Jeremy Grant and a Robert Williams, right? Kyle Kuzma, supposedly you can have him for 1 first, but even that's again, not all firsts are the same, right? If it's a heavy protected first, maybe, for a Jeremy Grant or a Kyle Kuzma. But again, even then, it's not something that you're running to the door for, which is probably why the Lakers haven't made that trade yet. Why the Lakers haven't pulled off any type of deal yet, because there is no guy you're running to the door for. There is no guy that you're jumping at the first offer to go and acquire because you're scared somebody else takes them. It's just if somebody else is going to overpay for one of these guys, then they're going to get them. And I don't want to see the Lakers. I know some people think that the Lakers should overpay, do whatever you can, but you overpay for a guy or two and you're just as good, maybe slightly better, but you're not a contender. Well, now you're stuck. Now what? Now what do you do? Right? It's just, that's the problem that the Lakers are in. The Lakers need to find the right moves and really get, like I said, multiple guys. Where which is where I would, if I'm Rob Pelinka and the Lakers, I would be trying to, that's where I would be trying to find the moves, right? That's where I'd be trying to get the deals done, is on multiple pieces in one, right? So like, instead of Kyle Kuzma for a first, can you get Kyle Kuzma, Malcolm Brogdon, and Jonas Valanciunas for a first and, a couple seconds, right? So now it's like, yeah, technically you met the asking price of a first for Kyle Kuzma, but you also got your point of attack guard, you got your backup center. I'm just using the Wizards as an example. I know the Wizards aren't people's favorite, but one, it's been the most heavily linked to the Lakers. It's probably the most likely because Washington and the Lakers have such a good relationship. But that's like, it could be anything, like Robert Williams and Jeremy Grant, and or the problem with like Dorian Finney-Smith and Day'Ron Sharpe, like those two guys aren't worth the first together. I wouldn't do that, right? Like, so that's the problem. Like, outside of Washington, which other like multi-piece trade would you be willing to give a first for? Because like I said, Dorian Finney-Smith and Day'Ron Sharpe aren't worth a first. Maybe like a pick swap, 4 or 5 seconds, something like that, sure. But you're not trading, like it's just not worth the first. Dorian Finney-Smith isn't worth the first, and he doesn't really fit what the Lakers want. A guy that can be here for 3, 4, 5 years, right? Dorian Finney-Smith probably got a couple years, but he's 32, right? How good is he going to be at age 35? And he's really kind of more of like that secondary two-way rather than the primary two-way. Right, like if you have a Kyle Kuzma or Jeremy Grant or something like that, having like a Dorian Finney-Smith is huge, right? Because now you have two of those guys. One is kind of the higher tier, the other guy's kind of like the mid tier. So that's where I think the dilemma really lies for the Lakers, is just, and why I keep preaching patience. Talk about patience, because these asking prices are still insane for guys, and we're still in December, right? As we get closer to February, teams are going to be more willing to drop their price and be willing to, all right, fine, we'll take, a heavily protected first instead of an unprotected first. Or, we'll take 4 seconds instead of a first for guys, right? Like things start to change when you get up there. And you've seen, like, great example was the Dennis Schroeder trade, right? Like the Dennis Schroeder trade, it was, they wanted a first for him. And they went from a first to like, 2 seconds? Right? Like that's a drastic drop off, right? Like what is first equivalent to seconds? Usually it's like 3 or 4. So they took like a quarter of what they would have gotten had they hold firm, right? So it's kind of one of those things, like Lakers are waiting, in particular, Rob Pelinka is waiting for that first shoe to drop, right? He's waiting for like which one of these teams end up biting first, right? Is there a team that is willing to, all right, fine, we'll give you, we'll give you Jeremy Grant for a couple seconds. And it's like, all right, sure, let's, we'll take him now in his contract at that point. Or we'll give you Robert Williams and Jeremy Grant for 5 seconds or something. Right, or a pick swap in 2 seconds. And it's like, okay, well, we could do that and then still have our firsts to go make another move or two, or even just maintain flexibility in the next season and maybe go make some other big plays, some other big splashes, right? Like, it's a tricky game. And we all want a deal done now. As much as I, am preaching patience, like, I want a deal sooner rather than later too, right? Like, I don't want to wait any longer to get a deal done. Like, I want a deal done a month ago, right? But the Lakers luckily are staying afloat. Lakers are staying in the thick of it, right? They're only like 2 games out from, being a top 3, 4 seed. As long as they are in the thick, right, then you can remain patient. The problem is if the Lakers go on any significant skid, it kind of becomes a problem. Or Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis ends up missing any significant time, supposedly he's going to play. He said he's going to play, but if he ends up missing any significant time, that could be a problem. So, it's a tough spot for the Lakers to be in, but at least they've made it public. It's out there. They're willing to make deals, right? They're willing to make trades. They want to get off of guys. So hopefully something gets done sooner rather than later. But we'll see. Time will tell. Anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? disagree with me. Do you think that the Lakers not overpay, get a deal done, whatever you got to do, it doesn't matter. You got to do something, right? But you also got to keep in mind, you can always get worse. You look at like a Russell Westbrook trade, you can get worse. No trade is better than a bad trade, right? If it's like the Lakers overpay for a guy that doesn't make us better, or the Lakers just stand pat, I'd rather them just stand pat and see what happens next season. But we'll see. Anyway, again, how you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it either way, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.